Yet another filmmaking adage that we commonly hear is to show, don't tell. This goes back to the origins of cinema. Theater is the medium for great conversations and dialogue. Cinema is the medium of moving pictures. That doesn't mean that movies should have clunky or shallow dialogue, but it does usually mean that your audience will expect your story to be told visually and not just purely through dialogue. Like in Jurassic Park, when the T-Rex escapes and they're out looking for it, we see the ripples in the water and the glass. We put the pieces together and realize that those ripples represent the proximity of the dinosaur, and it's pretty scary. Or think about The Wizard of Oz, when Toto pulls back the curtain and we realize with our heroes that the wizard is a phony. Seeing the little dog doing stuff in this really intense scene initially feels out of place. But then when we get what's actually happening, it opens our eyes. So much so that still today we refer to seeing something in a new light as pulling back the curtain. And as human beings, having our eyes open to truth that we didn't realize is just thrilling. It makes audiences feel smart and perceptive and enlightened. It's really one of the joys of watching a movie. In a more recent example, a reporter calls the executive assistant to a warden in Orange is the New Black. Notice the final image in this scene.
But I did some digging into budget allocation for New York, and as it turns out, Litchfield actually got an increase over the last 5 years of $2.3 million. So what I'm wondering is, where'd all that money go?
I'll have to look into that.
As I understand it, you're in charge of day-to-day operations at the prison.
I said I'd look into it.
Showing that luxury car, especially so huge in the frame, is essentially indicting her because it's showing us as the audience where that money is going. Now, this is filmmaking right here, folks, even though technically this isn't a film, whatever. The concept is still the same. We as the audience are allowed to have the thrill of insight as we put the pieces together. You can't do this in a play. The car would already be there. Choosing when and how to reveal this car created a uniquely cinematic experience. On The Assurance, we had a few moments of showing, not telling that I kind of like. The last shot of the movie that we filmed is what I called the Assurance and the Pocket shot. At the end of the film, Cordelia is standing at the cliff. There's no narration to tell us what's going on in her head. There's no other person for her to talk to so we can hear what she's thinking. We only have her actions. All we can do is show. In the original sequence, when she got to the summit, she just stood there for a while and then raised her hand. I really wanted to find some way to connect that hand raising to the assurance. And I wanted a way to show the audience that it's because of the assurance that she raises her hand in the first place. So I came up with this idea to shoot a pickup shot where she would take the assurance out of her pocket and look at it. And then I found clips in the original footage that made it look like she was looking down or thinking. And then when I edited them together to create the final sequence, it creates the illusion that she's reconnecting with the assurance. And by association, reconnecting with Tayani and all that she's been taught. And that makes it seem like her arm raising was motivated by her blossoming faith in the assurance. And I think it's powerful because it's cinematic and done without a word of dialogue. Showing not telling is also great for genre-specific stuff, like comedy, for example. Silent films could only show, so it follows that Charlie Chaplin was a master at this type of comedy. In the 1931 classic City Lights, there were constant visual gags from the moment we're introduced to his hobo character at a statue unveiling, to later when he meets his visually impaired love interest and he sneaks back to peep on her, or later when he eats spaghetti at a lavish banquet, or when he realizes that helping his girlfriend cure her blindness has a downside. Showing not telling is of course also great for horror. I mean, fear is all about psychology, and the more you can get inside the head of your audience, the more effective your scares will be. Who could forget that iconic shot in the original Halloween when we sit with Laurie Strode for a minute after the murderous Michael Myers is finally taken care of and oh, never mind. Another powerful cinematic moment achieved by showing something to the audience. Through the composition of the frame, through camera movement, through editing, you can decide what pictures to show. And when you tell a story with pictures like this, it's a wonderful experience for an audience.